Hello guys, and welcome to a new WARNO video today by me, Vulcan. In this one I have for you a 2 versus 2 on the brand new map, Teufelsmoor. Have a look at this bad boy. Oh yeah, we're going urban. And I'm going to be playing with the 82nd Airborne in this one. My teammate going to be playing with the 8th Infantry. We're up against the 35th. And the 7th Panzer Division. So as you can see, the game is underway. I'm going to be sending in my little birds early on to try and get some harassment down. We have a sniper that's moved into the high-rise buildings here. We've got the TOW-2 and Airborne Dragon moving on the right-hand side. On the left, we've got a couple of airborne scouts to act as recon. And then at the front, I've got a bunch of these military police with the M67 recoilless rifles, as well as some airborne troops and stingers. Now the first little bird's going to be shot down over the city. The second one going to get hit by an Igla as well as they pull away and try and survive the Iglas that have been brought in by Emil early on. Another Igla's going to hit from the left hand side. A third little bird goes down and the MiG-29 going to be coming in. There goes the fourth. We take down the MiG as well. Off to a very explosive start. My poor little birds really didn't have a chance to do anything in this game. But let's have a look at what's going on the front here. My military police with these M67 recoilless rifles trying to get some damage down onto these Spetsnaz. But of course at close range the Spetsnaz are going to be a lot better than my small squads. So these guys are going to have to do a runner. My airborne scouts on the left hand side pushed back by the Spetsnaz GRU. I put all of my squads into the church now just so that they can all fire their recoilless, and we do manage to pick off the Afghansky on the backside, so that was really nice. But meanwhile, just going to be bringing in a few more troops as all of my Humvees go back to get sold. So a couple more airborne squads which are more chunky, and also the M35 supply, which is actually really important because it will allow me to resupply these recoilless rifles. And recoilless rifles are actually very good at dealing with support weapons, at dealing with light vehicles, but also chunking infantry over time. The only real issue, of course, is ammo. So making sure that they have ammo is important. You can see there the recoilless hitting the Spetsnaz as they try and run across the open. These airborne units are certainly going to be able to help with this sort of ongoing engagement. If we can outnumber the Spetsnaz, then we can start to think about getting some value. These military police are going to be doing a runner. Last man trying to get out of there as quickly as possible. All of his teammates shot down. I've also now brought up an Apache. Might seem like a bad idea, but we are playing with the 82nd Airborne. So I do need to try and make good use out of my helicopters throughout this game in order to gain an advantage. Since my artillery kind of leaves a lot to be desired. Now you might have noticed that I didn't capture my sector on the left hand side, that's my bad. Fortunately they didn't capture the sector on their side either, so it's not terrible, but I'm going to be bringing up the Humvee CP to make sure that I capture that. Meanwhile we do manage to take down my 24V at the back there with my own stingers, so my stinger's paying off, his Igla's paying off, everybody's AA hitting, that's what we like to see. Actual reliable AA. Anyway, on this side the Spetsnaz have used up their RPO launchers. So my airborne troops here with their veterancy, allowing them to take on this fight relatively well, and he's going to be trying to retreat from it. On the left hand side the BRM has spotted my airborne scouts, so I'm going to have to back off from that engagement. On the right hand side here I think I managed to snipe a transport over here, but at the moment just trying to build up my forces on the front line, my infantry. I'm going to need to get my Apache fixed up at some point, but otherwise just more and more of these airborne units coming in. Airborne engineers there, and on the left side actually bringing in the M1 IP Abrams, which is going to be heading over this open left side in order to potentially deal with the Spetsnaz, the Igla, anything basically that I'm spotting out in the open here. Now we do see enemy mortar fire coming in. That's definitely going to be a little bit of a problem for my airborne units. I can't just let them sit there and take that. On this right hand side, my airborne not having a good time either because of the Spetsnaz. Fortunately, the airborne engineers with the flash launchers able to get some damage down and force them out of that position, but it did leave both of those units routed, which is obviously less than ideal. Also with the Spetsnaz sneaking up on the right hand side, my Stingers are going to have to do a runner. So it's all just about positioning backwards and forwards at the moment, making sure that I'm not losing any infantry unnecessarily or for free, trying to retreat them, get them back, get the supply to fix them up, and then I can send them back forwards. Especially with these flash launchers, similar case to the M67 recoilless, you want to make sure that they actually have ammo when they're engaging the enemy, otherwise they're really not very effective. Unfortunately, this airborne, they decide to route out into the open, trying to follow this tree line for cover, but it's not really working out very well for them, as the D44 is engaging, and those Spetsnaz OP, and bringing up a Chinook with more supply. That's going to be landing in the back line so that I can ferry the M35 supplies backwards and forwards and don't have to sell them just yet, because I didn't bring in a FOB at the back. Now, bringing in a FOB might have been a good idea because I did plan to use a lot of helicopters in this game. However, since all of the Iglas have been a problem so far, I actually opted to go for the 105mm howitzers. Now, these are going to be firing away, providing cover over the town and hitting basically wherever there is some Spetsnaz or Desantniki, which we'll see a little bit later on. There was one squad just there, but Spetsnaz is going to be used at the start, of course, because they do have that sweet forward deployment, which is very, very useful. So yeah, we're having a little bit of a standoff right now, a little bit of back and forth on the left-hand side, a little bit of back and forth and around the church here. Nothing too much else happening further to my right. I do have my teammate fighting back and forth over there as well. This map does tend to become kind of grindy, but that's honestly what you'd expect in an urban warfare map. And honestly, I really don't mind it. I think it makes for very, very interesting games. There's actually quite a lot of tactical opportunity on this map. If you look on the left-hand side here, you can use tanks to kind of push more across the open. On the right-hand side, that same thing. And in the middle, you can maybe try and push down the highway. You just got to be careful, of course, of all of the units either side, or the buildings either side, that could be used to flank your positions there. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting terrain on this map for sure. Was very, very impressed the first time I saw it. It just looks so, so cool, especially when you zoom in to this level and look across it. Just buildings as far as the eye can see into the distance there. And my artillery shells flying over the town once again. Smashing into these buildings, just trying to keep whittling down those Spetsnaz so that when I finally engage them, they will be weakened. And they'll also have less cohesion, which means that my airborne units will have the advantage in those engagements. So the Spetsnaz there making a play forwards, kind of forced to do so due to the artillery. He can either retreat and lose more ground, or he can try and push forwards instead. He opts to try and move forwards. And whilst that's happening, Mi-26 there on the backside does get shot down. Big loss of supply for him there. I believe Emil accidentally moved that, probably selected it by accident with his other troops, because he mentioned it in the chat at the time. But M1IP on the left, at least, managing to clean up the Spetsnaz there, and also now going to be able to kill off the 85mm gun. See my artillery going to be constant in this engagement, trying to make sure that I pull back any infantry that do get low, so that we can maintain an advantage. LRS now coming into position as well. These LRS are pretty good because they do have a sniper alongside their decent weapons. They're also got the like special forces trait. They have GSR, so when they're still, they're really, really accurate. Really, really good. Or like really, really high optics, sorry, not accurate. I'll just check this out. It looks so cool. Just like this little pond here. Fighting over this sort of urban area. Going to be forced to smoke off though, as the T64 BV does get the better of the M1 IP over time. This thing does have quite a lot of HP due to the ERA trait. But now alongside the 105s, I've also decided to bring in 107mm mortars, and these are going to be smashing this T64 BV with fire, since it did get track destroyed, so I'm hoping that my mortars can do the job. I'm pretty close range with these mortars, so trying to utilize that to get the kill here. The dispersion a lot less because of that short range. The other thing is, my M67s are nearby, and you can see that the M67 managed to hit, and then the mortar finished the job, so nice kill for me. Taking advantage of the critical hit. And actually a big, big win, because I didn't lose a tank and he did, which is actually quite massive in this sort of engagement, particularly with two sort of airborne units going up against each other. So I'm obviously playing the 82nd, I've got a limited amount of M1 IPs. He's playing the 35th, he's got a limited amount of T64 BVs. And taking out those units doesn't really matter from a cost perspective, it matters just from a pure availability perspective. So there's no real way he's going to be able to get back that kind of unit in the game. As you can see, my artillery coming under fire here. Chinook swiftly moving out of the way of that one, trying to get his own back. For the Mi-26 there, I believe it was because this got spotted maybe from some recon on the left hand side, or he saw it land maybe from the right over here. You can see the line of sight there kind of goes all the way through, so that's likely what it was. So I'm just going to move that back and land it. The M35 supplies can continue to use it to fix up things on the front line. So I've still got my Apache hanging about. Artillery's coming in hot on the right hand side. Anytime there's an infantry engagement, I'm aiming with these 105s. These 105s, they aim really, really quickly, so very, very useful for engaging enemy infantry, because infantry engagements actually take a little while, and so you can generally get shots down, and then I'm forcing him out of his buildings, and then I can advance forwards and take better positions. So it's working out quite nicely. All the while my mortars are also now firing away, and I feel like on this map, utilizing this kind of artillery, mortars, and sort of light howitzers works really, really well. Potentially more so than the larger artillery pieces like rocket artillery and the long guns, because they're so much more reactive. They can fire so much more quickly and aim much more quickly. And that really, really helps in these urban environments, because units are jumping from building to building quite frequently. So that's definitely something that I've noticed with this map. And you can see that it's forced his units back on this left-hand side and allowed me to keep my airborne engineers alive. And just little things like that make a lot of difference, because availability-wise in the long run, especially on a map that's a little bit grindy like this, it makes a big, big difference. We've got rocket artillery coming in now. I think he had expected me to move forwards and chase his Spetsnaz, but I had not, so I decided to resupply my units in these buildings before moving forwards. So I managed to avoid that rocket strike. Second Chinook has been called in. That's landed nicely here. What a parking job that is by the Chinook pilot. Very cool. These rockets gonna be continuing to come in. These are gonna be grads. This one gonna be smashing my infantry here as I'm trying to get it fixed up. My M35 supply, fortunately, remaining alive, is gonna be able to fix up the airborne engineers again. So yeah, that's the 35th rocket MLRS. it doesn't have very many rockets per salvo, and that's why I'm able to get away with not taking too much damage there. So I'm also now bringing up these Humvees. Now these Humvees, they have grenade launchers, and they're pretty good at providing infantry fire support in these scenarios, as long as I keep them out of range of enemy AT like the D44 or the T64s. Then they should be absolutely fine and be able to provide decent fire support from a distance. You can see the range on them there, 1,400 meters. Very, very useful in these gaps between the buildings. So we've got helicopters hanging around on the backside here. One thing that I have noticed actually about this map, you can see if I zoom out, like say I'm trying to get an overall view of my forces, it is a little cluttered. Now when you play with aggregation, it's probably not so bad. But with the way that I play it with the old school UI, I believe this map can become very, very cluttered, especially considering there's so many different buildings that you can put infantry in next to one another. They don't stack up like these three too often. They're right next to each other. Now, big mistake on my part here, letting the T64BV freely kill an M1IP. I also, you might have noticed, allowed an HGM into the side of this M1IP, so these two are now in trouble. And that's really not good news for me, because I've now got pretty weak tanks, and he might be able to exploit that with his T64BVs if he has more on the field. But I have a new M1IP that's come on. His T64BV does have low cohesion, so I'm trying to take advantage of that in this engagement. My artillery is coming in to hit him at the same time, so I'm really hoping that that can help get the job done. So I'm going to get stunned by that last shot, and he's going to smoke off as he realizes what I'm doing. Meanwhile, on the right hand side, I was also arting here once again, and you can just see the carnage that is ensuing throughout this town. Everything getting turned to dust over time as the battlefield continues, and we haven't really been able to move forwards all that much. I've actually kind of lost ground on the left hand side. I do have a sniper here set up, an airborne scout further back on that left side now. But on this right hand side, made a little bit of ground, but that's soon going to change as the MiG-27 comes in for the bombing strike. However, nice interception by my teammate. F-16 fighting Falcon takes one for the team as he destroys both the HE and Napalm planes, allowing these infantry to stay alive. That was actually pretty massive for me. Now able to get airborne engineers next to these Spetsnaz. They're going to be able to launch their satchel charge at them and deal a significant amount of damage. Really just trying to break down these Spetsnaz squads that have been harassing me since the start of the game. And all the while, this artillery just continuing to fire away. These guys firing. The Apache up above there, that's really cool. We've got one over here as well, in the back garden. Keeping them spread out. The best counter to this would just be for him to try and counter battery with mortars. But so far, he hasn't been doing that. I think he's been using his own mortars and such for frontline engagements as well, similar to what I'm doing. The thing is, I know that his mortars are likely to be Nonnas, which are motorized armored mortars. So it's kind of difficult for me to counter battery with a 107 and a 105. But for him, you know, he doesn't have to worry about mine being armored or very mobile. So he could easily counter battery them, especially since I get pretty lazy with these. Of course, you can see I have left some of the Humvees nearby, so that I can pick them up if necessary, but ultimately if I'm not paying attention, they'll just die very quickly. Now, I haven't been able to make good use of the heavy hogs or like the Apaches so far. It's certainly something I've been working on. As I make ground, I'm trying to make note of any time I kill like an Igla or something, because it definitely will open an opportunity for me to make use of these helicopters at some point. You can see there's an Afghansky here, a couple Strelas on the left hand side, so that's looking kind of untenable right now. more rocket artillery coming in is going to weaken my forces as I continue to push forwards. Airborne trying to get shots on with the AT-4. Did manage to take out a truck, but I don't think they were actually in range to engage the Afghansky or the T-64, and they don't want to be continuing that engagement. Sniper, meanwhile, going to be helping support from the right-hand side here with the M24, trying to chip away at those Spetsnaz squads. Also bringing up the Humvee with the grenade launcher here on the right side of these buildings, whilst the T-64's on the left. Just making sure that I'm not putting them in direct line of sight. And that's going to allow them to start firing away, again, chipping down those units. M1IP also going to be creeping out to the right hand side to provide extra fire support here, and my Apache slowly but surely creeping forwards. You can see this one's moving up here, we got this one here. What I was assuming was that most of his AA seemed to be on the left hand side here, and the Iglas that I was having trouble with earlier haven't been firing at me just yet, so currently trying to sneak them into positions where their rockets can get on target. And you can see just how constant I am with this artillery. Like, I am actually relentless with this artillery throughout this game, just to make sure that I can break down these units that are just so much superior to my own. So, 2 M1 IPs now on the left-hand side, taking advantage of the Spetsnaz doing a run-up. Meanwhile here, I don't want to engage like that too much with the T-64. Instead, what I'm going to do, pull that back, try and get overwhelming numbers advantage here with my own M1 IPs to try and take that out. Fortunately, these two Spetsnaz are getting far enough back to be fixed up, but at least my grenade launchers can prevent them from getting resupplied for a little while. T-64 tries to move away from that engagement, ends up going down. It's blown to pieces by the M1 IP. Now the Humvee with grenade launcher opening up again. And without that T-64 to worry about on the right-hand side, we have pretty good fire support advantage here now that we can make use of to potentially take some ground. And what I'm trying to do is get into this building because it gives me a massive sightline over this entire area of the city here. And then what I can do is get into the corner of this objective with my own command and try and break the stalemate that has been consistent pretty much since the start of the game. I've also, whilst we've been continuing, brought in a bunch of these 40mm grenade launchers. You saw this one prevent the Spetsnaz from getting fixed up in the open there. These two on the left harassing the Desaniki as they cross on the left hand side. Sniper actually helping find the Afghansky and the Desaniki on the left there, so able to give me more artillery targets. Meanwhile, Spetsnaz OP, cheeky little move here from Emil. If he had jumped that into the high-rise, probably could have got some decent shots onto my tanks here. You see that he's trying to do just that. In this case, Apache in position now to take them out, so almost gets the better of me with that Spetsnaz. But here come two Su-25s and it's Eagle time over the city. Look at that. Beautiful stuff. Unfortunately, one of my Eagles gonna get taken down. I'm gonna bring in 2 more Eagles to engage their MiGs. We're hoping to get some back. Unfortunately, the AMRAAM's not quite hitting the mark. A really, really cool air engagement there. T-64 is going to be trying to get out of dodge on the right-hand side. The normal T-64B doesn't have explosive reactive armor, so I'm actually at an advantage against them with the M1 IPs. And so they're taking a lot of damage, being forced to fall back. And on the left-hand side, we've been continuing to slam these with artillery, grenade launchers. There's just so much to manage here, it was actually crazy. Anyway, Airborne now moved into the high-rise buildings, going to try and engage the Motoradvedka And the Spetsnaz M1IP manages to snipe the T-64B. Second one also coming in line of sight there is going to get hit, taken down to 1 health, almost dies. Meanwhile, Apache launching Hellfires over to this Mi-26, and the second one goes down there. Another bunch of supplies that we're taking away from our enemy, which in these engagements is actually very, very crucial. Apache again firing away with its Hellfire, manages to kill the Strela whilst also getting 30mm shots onto the Spetsnaz. Absolute Chad takes out an Afghansky as well. And then the Iglas, they strike again. The Apache going down. Unfortunate for me. Oh no, that wasn't the Apache, sorry, that was a little bit. The Apache survived. Of course it did. Again, artillery is persistent. You can see that I'm slowly but surely getting through quite a lot of supply. One of these Chinooks has already been entirely used up and sold. You can see all these M105s are getting low on ammo as well as we continue to try and push in here, but every shot really counts at this point, as getting into the corner of this sector is super important for us to win this game, since we are behind 17 to 102 points. So LRS have jumped into the high-rise here with the TOW-2, and I'm going to try and use the TOW-2 to take out some of these T-64s and other units that could be a problem. All the while, Apache, come back, has managed to get rockets onto the Spetsnaz. He doesn't have his AA far enough up. TOW-2 still firing away. T-64 BV on the left side, causing me a little bit of problems. In the high rise, it gets utterly destroyed. All of my units there get wiped out. Was a little bit ambitious to jump into that high rise in front of so much fire support, so I do get punished for that. Meanwhile, however, M1IPs still giving me a lot of value throughout this game as they support my infantry across the front. You can see I am like losing track of units every now and then, a couple of airborne just chilling out. Making sure that I continue to trade well. On the right hand side, our 7th Panzer Division chap has decided to bring up some reinforcements for Emil. And the Apache is just working so well right now. I am going to have to get some more infantry up here though, shortly. And the M105s, they're still firing away. Loads more infantry now coming in, the airborne dragons. I've got the airborne scouts coming up. My plan was to pretty much get this entire right side covered entirely by dragons, so that they can't move any armor, any light vehicles across that right hand side, and then I can kind of cover and advance into the left hand side. Now, one of my Apaches is going to get away. Unfortunately, this Apache, the rocket Apache, does go down. Also lost another little bird. Those poor little birds. They really didn't do the job this game. I feel there's quite a lot of potential for them to be good. Maybe more so on the right-hand side where they can use the high-rises for cover more. Because there's only a couple high-rises on the left, actually. Like, this area is... like, it looks like it should be good for helicopters, but honestly it's really not, and that's something I would definitely give you guys a heads up on when you're going to play this map, because since all of these buildings are relatively the same height, it's very easy for Iglas and like manpads in general to hide in these buildings but still have decent line of sight against helicopters. Whereas if you think of Twin Cities, where there's a lot of high-rises, the high-rises actually directly block the line of sight, whereas these buildings don't so much. Which is why it's like so much more risky to move those forwards. And I was using this almost as a barrier for my Apaches for quite a while, but he'd obviously snuck up some of his Iglas eventually and taken advantage of that. But these airborne dragons now doing a lot of work, as you can see. It's chipping his T-64Bs big time. Now got some Humvee TOW 2s coming up to help out, but as you can see, there is an alert. Only 10 minutes remaining, and we got a little ways to go. But my wall of airborne with the Dragon 2s moving up on the right-hand side here should certainly help try and lock this down. Then all I need to do, get a couple of airborne units into these buildings, and we'll be in a really good spot. So Igla squads here, taking out these Iglas, super important, opens up the use of my helicopters. But napalm there, going to be hitting pretty nicely onto my airborne. Meanwhile, this Apache does end up taking out an enemy Igla. But of course, there is more than just that one there. And boom, down goes the Apache. Didn't notice that that was getting killed because I was focusing on microing the infantry further up, I believe. Almost killed the T-64BV on the left. All of his T-64s are getting very, very low on health now. And if he doesn't have adequate supply to fix them up, then he's going to be in big trouble. So that's kind of what I was counting on. That's why I'm using a lot of these Humvee TOW 2s now, because they've only really got to hit one missile, and then they get the kill. In this case, TOW 2 actually going to go straight into the Nonna back there. Did bring in an F-111 as well for cluster onto his Nonnas, but he did manage to dodge pretty nicely. Now my Eagle's going to be coming in to cover the sky against the MiG-23 ML there on the left-hand side. Unfortunately, my Eagle's really not doing the job. A-10 is going to come in and provide rocket support. It's a little strafe there. Ends up getting shot down, however. Sad times. But now the push is in full swing. A lot of his T-64s are dead or very damaged. My TOW 2s are picking off all of the other vehicles. My airborne now able to move forwards under the support of the M1 IPs. I've also brought in a bunch of airborne leaders, all three of these, so that I can push more than one into here and make sure that we hold on to the cap before the end of the game. We're really trying to make a strong push right now, taking out another one of his mortars there, taking out any and all of these vehicles that we see. Really, really helpful. And all of this infantry that's trying to stop me, well, it's taking a lot of damage from these tanks and from all this infantry that I have access to. So airborne leaders now moving into position, just trying to make sure that I unload them before they get shot at by the AT guns. The D-44 doing a decent job. MiG-25 going to be coming overhead. Trouble is, SEAD's not very useful against the Americans because they use Stingers, they use Chaparrals. The only thing that you can really hit with SEAD is PVADs. And yeah, that means that you're kind of vulnerable if you're hunting for only PVADs, because you end up flying over the Chaparrals that you can't shoot. On the left hand side in the meantime, Engineer's actually making short work of a lot of his infantry. On the right hand side, Afghansi Spetsnaz getting cleaned up by the Humvees now providing fire support instead of the M1 IPs. Bombing Strike is going to come in, do a decent chunk of damage there. I believe it took out... No, it didn't. I thought it took out one of my airborne leaders, but they're all still alive now. All three on the front line. The nice thing about these airborne leaders is they're 12 strength, which is actually huge. Really, really good chunky squads that can actually defend themselves quite nicely against enemy infantry here. Yeah, airborne here with the shock trait on the left hand side, dealing with the Spetsnaz nicely. My airborne engineers also getting good shots in. Snipers actually spotted a Conkers on the left hand side, so we're getting a free kill there. Grenade launchers providing fantastic fire support at close range. And my artillery is still coming down. Now I'm getting to the point where I really am entirely running out of ammunition, so my 105s are kind of out of commission. And the 107s are using up the rest of their shots. But we've managed to push our points over the enemy with 5 minutes left on the clock. So, what has been an incredibly tense and, I guess, like, destructive engagement, we eventually managed to push through with our airborne units and get the job done. Got to be a bit careful of this Aquila. Very scary helicopter. Does have the Vickers missile. This thing has 77% accuracy with its veterancy, 26 penetration. That can hit tanks very, very hard. AH-1F has come up, providing cover with its Stinger, trying to shoot down the Aquila. Do manage to find the kill. Big kill for me. Chinook moving forwards, last of my supply coming in to fix these up. At this point, I basically decided that having the tanks was the biggest advantage that I really have, because I've killed a lot of his tanks. And so if I have tanks and he does not, to provide fire support, that's going to be really, really big for me. So that's why I'm using the Chinook to fix those up, and you can see that's absolutely drained that supply. Bringing over the Humvee there to get supplied as well, the airborne to get remanned and reinforced.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the supply is drained very, very fast, but well worth it for the 3 Abrams to be back at full strength. And now they'll be able to support these leaders that I'm using 2 of to take this sector from our opponent. So, time for more airplay as the A-10 starts to travel. Have another A-10 flying over, but as you can see at this point, Emil very, very low on infantry, most likely. Sad day to be an Mi-24, as it does come in for the flank. It does manage to kill one of my 105s. It doesn't really matter because the 105 already ran out of ammunition. And the A-10 there picking up a nice free kill. Good. Getting the shot towards the A-10. A-10 just kind of chilling right now until it does finally get hit. Last one goes past, then Igler on the left hand side again. Classic. The Iglers in this game were actually nuts. Well, my man-birds were as well, my Stingers. You know, we got the tanks here pushing through. Look at that, using the garage for cover. Fighting over with the wreck of the Mi-26 in the distance. So much fire going all over the place as the Dasatniki Metis came in. Last of the Nonnas go down. Metis getting slowly chewed up. And my 24K is on the way. But I've got loads of Stingers just attack moving on this right hand side. Looking to hopefully take down the Mi-24 and potentially the Ka-50 Aquila. There was me just complimenting the Stingers as they proceed to miss every shot. That's just how it be sometimes, guys. Vito 2 finding a nice kill there onto the T-64B. This is huge when this happens. 95-point truck or Jeep versus a 210-point plane. Eagle flying overhead, getting a AMRAAM into the MiG-27, actually massive. Again, we're going for a big old air engagement here as we manage to shoot down an Su-22. Second Su-22 does manage to get through MiG-21 as well. My F-15 having a hard time flying over. Look at that. Oh, I went so low. And then the shulker. Sad times. Down it goes. It was a nice air show. Cost me 2 eagles though. But alas. The main thing is that these airborne leaders stay alive, and so far doing a great job defending themselves. And with the counter reaching the end, that is victory after the full 40 minutes. 9,150 kills to 5,800 losses in the end. Efficiently trading over time with help from the artillery and also, of course, the tanks. The Apache did really well for me, killing a couple of the Spetsnaz squads especially. But you can see here, M1 IPs, super important here to keep these alive. They did so much damage in these engagements. The mortars, of course, picking off some kills here and there. And Vito 2's coming in pretty clutch at the end. Eagles might not have looked like they really did too much, but this one managing to score 4 kills. So, all very important in this game. Everything kind of did its job. Mortars keeping those infantry chipped. The 105s doing the same. And allowing my infantry to win those engagements, yeah. So whilst the artillery might not have got a lot of kills themselves, having that very efficient and reactive artillery fire really helped me out in this game. So yeah, that's kind of how the game plays a lot of the time, unless you start to look at using heavier armored divisions, in which case things can get actually really cool on this map, and I'll definitely be making sure to bring you more games of Teufelsmoor. But that is it for now. My voice is giving up on me. So thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.